One of the first things you need to know in order to understand a poem is who or what the speaker is. So in this video, I will explain what a speaker is and what a speaker is not. And then we will read a poem called The Secretary Chant by Marge Piercy, and we'll talk about how to determine who the speaker of that poem is. In poetry, the speaker is the person who's doing the talking. It's the active voice, or character, or persona in the poem. In poetry, we usually find speakers, not narrators. We don't use the terms speaker and narrator interchangeably. Poems have speakers, and narratives have narrators, because speaking and narrating are two different things. Speakers speak, narrators narrate. It's also important to remember that the speaker is not the same thing as the poet. I wrote a poem. Here's the poem. In the swampy pond where I like to chill, I sit on the lily pads and stay real still. Then with a flick of my tongue and a quick little try, I catch a fat dragonfly that was flying by in the sky. It's a bad poem, but I wrote it. I'm the poet. Who's the speaker? If you said the speaker is a frog, you're correct. So the speaker is not the poet. So when writing about or discussing a poem, we don't usually talk about what the poet says. We talk about what the speaker says. In some poems, the speaker isn't very prominent, but in some they're very distinct, as in the poem The Secretary Chant by Marge Piercy. My hips are a desk. From my ears hang chains of paper clips. Rubber bands form my hair. My breasts are wells of mimeograph ink. My feet bear casters, buzz, click. My head is a badly organized file. My head is a switchboard where crossed lines crackle. My head is a wastebasket of worn ideas. Press my fingers and in my eyes appear credit and debit. Zing, tinkle. My navel is a reject button. From my mouth issue canceled reams. Swollen, heavy, rectangular. I am about to be delivered of a baby Xerox machine. File me under W because I once was a woman. So, who's the speaker? The important thing to understand about determining the speaker is that your evidence must come from the text. You don't get to just use your imagination here. There's lots of methods about how to read poetry. I want to tell you mine. The first thing you do is you read the poem, and then you ask yourself, what did I notice? Contrary to the popular belief of most high school students, the author is not trying to hide things from us. So you will tend to notice what the author wants you to notice, especially with a little practice of reading poetry. The second step in my method is read the poem again, and then again ask yourself, what did I notice? If you had your brain turned on, you will have noticed different things. Do this at least 3 times. If you do this method, you probably will have noticed some things about the speaker, especially when you read the title. Always read the title of a poem. The title suggests that the speaker is a secretary, and hopefully your reading of the poem confirmed this. You also probably concluded that the secretary was a woman, and there is evidence for this in the text. The speaker has breasts and is about to be delivered of a baby. So we know 2 things about the speaker so far. She's a secretary and she's a woman. But we don't want to necessarily stop there. There may be more. There is. Let's go back to my method for a moment. After you've read the story a couple of times and noticed what you noticed, well then we have to deal with the language. We'll talk more about this in future videos, but right now let's just deal with definitions. You need to know what the words mean. And usually that means you need to look up the words for which you are unsure of the definition. But today, to save some time, I will do some of this for you. This is a mimeograph machine, and it used ink to make large numbers of copies back in the 1970s. Xerox was a company that made photocopiers like this one. These were used to make a small number of copies. These are casters. They go on the feet of chairs. This is a switchboard. A simplified version of this was used to connect phone calls to people in the office. Reams. A ream is a unit of paper. Back in the day, it was 480 sheets. Nowadays, it's 500. Based on these kinds of references, we can tell that the speaker is from some time in the past. The mimeograph machines and the switchboards were things that they used in offices in the 1960s, moving into the 1970s. So part of who the speaker is derived from the context that is created in the poem. The context, or the situation, or the occasion. So what else can we deduce about the speaker from the poem? All different parts of her body have become part of her function in the office setting. She's even making office machine sounds. She is becoming her job. This can happen to anyone, but women were particularly susceptible to this back in the day. The point that this poem is making is that a woman in the workplace is reduced to the tasks that she could accomplish. There wasn't going to be any advancement. Doing well at her job didn't lead to promotion. She just continued to serve the company or whatever with telephones and typewriters and copiers. She was defined by her function, just like a typewriter is. The speaker has become less than human. She has been dehumanized. The conclusion of the poem nails this. File me under W because I once was a woman. So first of all, she's no longer a woman. And we have a spelling mistake here. What's up with that? I think the word once is being altered so that it fits into the system, which is what has happened to her. That's my take, and it does fit within the theme of the poem. So the speaker of the secretary chant is a woman and a secretary sometime around 1970, whose identity as a woman has been replaced by her function in a job. So I hope this will be a help as you continue to think about and write about poetry, particularly understanding the speaker. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.